What is your most this is not happening moment? Part 3. The next day I finally saw an attorney. He doesn't have too much information for me but tells me what the charge entails and what the possibilities are for sentencing and things like that. A few days later he comes back with what they call discovery, which is evidence on me from the district attorney's side. As we went through that, I found no evidence at all pointing to any kind of criminal activity, which of course I knew because I hadn't done anything. However, I did find a receipt from an unknown company that was in my former partner's handwriting and had his home address as the address for the unknown company. The amount received was $12,000. I told my attorney what I found and then was escorted back to my cell. Days and weeks go by. No news at all. The total amount of time I spent in this jail was 52 more days. They demanded $25,000 in cash in order to release me, or I was just stuck there. I had access to no money at all. However, I had finally called my buddy who had gotten in touch with my sister and they had let my kids know what was going on. On the 44th day I woke up with some pain. Looks like I had caught an infection and it was in my right ball. Had no way to contact a nurse except to put it on a message board requesting medical. There was no medical that day, there was no medical the next day, even though I requested it again. 6 days later I finally had seen a nurse after I told them through the message that it has gone into my ear. She gave me one antibiotic pill that day and told me I would get another the next day. On the 51st day I saw my attorney and my attorney had told me at this point the DA is not going to offer a plea bargain because the evidence against you doesn't make sense. However, there is a possibility that there will be a plea bargain offer, but it probably won't be for about 6 months. If at that point I plead not guilty, it may be another 6 months to a year before there is a trial. At this point I just tell my attorney that we need to speak to the DA. He says he doesn't have time to do that and I said no problem. Give me the name of the DA and the telephone number and I'll have my sister three-way me and we'll call him ourselves. Something amazing happened at that point. The next morning my attorney arrived and told me I was getting out that day. The state released me on my signature with no money involved. So I left North Carolina on a Thursday evening and had to take a train back to South Florida. I got home Friday night. Fortunately through this time I've spoken to my landlady. Even though I had been evicted because she didn't know where I was, she let me stay. My car had been repoed, the companies that I have done business with had cancelled contracts, and one had even charged me back almost $75,000. But at least I had a place to stay. So I began to regroup the next afternoon and I noticed that my eye was hurting. By that night I couldn't see from my right eye and it was in so much pain that I had to call an ambulance. Long story short, I ended up staying the night in the hospital with an infection that had gone into my eye behind my eye and was in the process of getting ready to attack my brain. I lost sight in my right eye that day. Ended up several months later having to have a cornea transplant. The transplant was a year and a half ago, and I still can't see very well out of the eye. Today is July 22nd, almost 2 years from the arrest, and the case still hasn't been closed. I've been told over and over that they're going to dismiss the charges, but they haven't done that as of yet. So that's my answer to the day. I said, is this really happening?